Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, distinguished delegates here. I'm truly delighted to be here this afternoon. The last 2 or 2.5 days, we've heard a number of speakers, probably a little over 100, graphically describe the problems. I'm not going to talk about problems because problems are known. I'm going to talk about solutions. I'm going to recommend a few solutions as far as India is concerned. My solutions or my recommendations will be in 3 parts, Mr. Chairman. First, we'll talk about agriculture resurgence. One of the serious downside risks to Indian economy is posed by agriculture, in my opinion. While the manufacturing sector and the services sector both are growing at close to double digit year after year, agriculture growth rates in the last 10 years and a little more probably 12 years, annual average growth rate has been about 2.4%. This is just not done. This is exactly the reason why there is pervasive poverty in the rural areas and pervasive malnutrition and undernutrition in the rural areas. We need to seriously apply ourselves towards a resurgence in Indian agriculture. What do we need to do for a resurgence in Indian agriculture? I have a 6-point plan. I can actually elaborate on each one of these plans and speak for 20 minutes, but obviously this is not the time, but I'm only going to make those points, those 6 points. One is we need to strengthen the input delivery system. Seeds, fertilizers, agrochemicals, there is no monitoring of quality, no monitoring of prices. These markets are very, very open and liberal, and this is one of the serious problems which farmers are facing. We need strong regulatory oversight for the input market, and we need to strengthen the input delivery system so that the farmer gets the right kind of inputs at the right price. The second question is irrigation. We have known any number of experiments and research has conclusively proved that availability of water improves yields by 25 to 30%. Our 160 million hectares of land that is cultivated, only 40% is irrigated, 60% is rain-fed. We need to invest extraordinary amounts, huge amounts on quickly expanding irrigation. Indeed, in the last 15 years, we have invested heavily in irrigation, but I don't find that investment getting translated into actual acreage under major field crops. There are last mile connectivity problems. We need to address those problems, which means very simply there is a lot of work for the policy makers. Third one is we need to improve the antiquated agronomic practices through revival of the extension mechanism. We used to have wonderful extension system until 7 or 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Now, whichever village I go to, I check with the farmer, they said he hasn't seen an extension worker for ages, 5 or 6 years probably. I think that's something which needs to be done very, very importantly. And we also we need to infuse agriculture with technology, both pre-harvest and post-harvest technologies, which would also mean we should seriously look at using technology seeds. And use of technology seeds in cotton is an example which all of us are aware of. Next, investment in rural infrastructure. Pathetic conditions of rural infrastructure as far as India is concerned. Huge investments are required. Unless public investment in agriculture and in rural infrastructure is stepped up, there will be no incentive or no motivation for the private sector to invest in infrastructure. Therefore, I would strongly urge that we need to step up public investment in infrastructure, particularly rural infrastructure that would facilitate farmers to move, store, and market their produce, grade, sort, and clean, etc., and so that they are able to get a better price. The last one is use of information technology to deliver price and market information to farmers. We have about 700 million mobile phones working in India. Almost every farmer has a mobile phone. It should not be difficult for us to deliver price and market information to farmers so that every farmer is actually a savvy trader. But we just have not built that trading capacity in him to take trading calls and trading positions. If we enable the farmer with information, build capacity in him with market and price information, I'm sure he knows when to sell, where to sell, and to whom to sell. So these are this is the 6-point plan or mantra that I have for agriculture resurgence. We then come to nutrition. There's a serious skew in food consumption in India between the top 25% of the population and the bottom 40% of the population, huge skew. We are world's largest producers of milk, second largest producers of rice and wheat and sugar, fruits and vegetables, etc. But when you look at the consumption pattern, there's a huge skew, and I think that skew is something which needs to be narrowed by lifting consumption of the bottom 40% of the population. One of the ways in which it can be done is through the public distribution system. We have a fairly well-tested public distribution system which services a very large number of people. But unfortunately, our PDS focuses only on rice, wheat, and sugar. There's a serious calorie deficiency in the country, serious protein deficiency in the country. I have written any number of articles and spoken and made comments, and I would actually use this forum to again urge that we need to include, in addition to rice, wheat, and sugar, edible oils and pulses under the public distribution system, so that poor consumers get calories through edible oil and protein through pulses. I think this is something which is extremely important under the Indian context, in my opinion. Similarly, high food prices, high food inflation actually dilutes the consumption of nutritious food for the poor people. Poor people already spending more than 50% of their monthly family budget on food cannot afford food inflation. So there is simply no escape from subsidizing food for the poor. Third is financialization of the food market. I think increasingly we are following Western models of marketizing agriculture and financializing the agriculture products. That's something which this country cannot afford. We are still not a mature economy. We still have to go some way in becoming self-sufficient in food. And once when you financialize your agriculture commodity markets, particularly of those commodities which are so essential and are in short supply, you're going to create artificial demand through speculative forces and raise prices up. And it's going to hurt poor people. Therefore, I would actually urge that we need to lessen the financialization of primary agriculture commodity markets. And the last one is on coarse grains, coarse cereals. Obviously, I think the word coarse cereals is inappropriate, probably politically inappropriate. Maize and other millets, etc., jowar, bajra, sorghum. I think we need to make these fashionable. These are highly nutritious foods, but people tend to believe it's rice and wheat which is fashionable. I think we need to make consumption of millets and coarse grains and coarse cereals more fashionable. So the last point is on, there's a constitution angle to the whole issue. What is this constitution angle? Under the Indian constitution, there are three lists called the central list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Agriculture and education are two items actually in the state list. States will have to legislate on agriculture. States will have to legislate on agriculture markets and agriculture marketing. And also states will have to legislate on health. Health, education, and agriculture are in the state list. And the central government has much less to do with these three. Across India, different states give different levels of importance to agriculture, to health, and to education. I think this is causing a serious problem. Our paper, we have commented on a number of occasions that we need to take agriculture and health and education in the concurrent list where both states and the center can legislate. I think this is a time, I believe, has come for us to seriously look at an amendment to the constitution to make health, education and agriculture in the concurrent list so that it becomes a responsibility and the duty of the federal government, of the central government, to ensure that these policies are very strongly, firmly and transparently implemented. The final point I simply want to say that, yes sir, yeah. All of us know the problems. In India, I think most of us believe we also know the solutions. There's simply no political will. We need to put the scientists and businesses and everybody else, researchers have to put pressure on the government to demonstrate political will to change. And there are no simple one-step solutions. We need to move. Every country in Asia will have to move in several different directions simultaneously to address the issue of health and nutrition by leveraging agriculture. Thank you very much, sir.